So it's been about a month since Battlefield 6's Season 3 dropped, and I gotta be honest, I think we might be back. About 3 months ago, when Season 2 of Battlefield 6 released, I dropped a video called Battlefield 6 is Losing the War. And in that video, I kind of made it a point to talk about how, despite Battlefield 6's incredibly strong launch, Battlefield 6 and DICE as a whole had been making mistake after mistake with the lack of content, the lack of maps, and the over-reliance on limited time modes. And slowly but surely, players started bouncing off the game, and I was scared that Battlefield 6 would suffer the same fate that Battlefield 2042 did before it, and even parts of Battlefield 5 did. And to be honest with you, this would have hit extra hard because beneath all the BS, Battlefield 6 is actually a phenomenal game. Those chaotic Battlefield moments, explosions everywhere, the drag revive, all of it just hits so hard and just hits just as hard as it did when the game first came out in October of 2025. And look, with all this said, I was convinced that Battlefield 6 would die out like the games before it. And to be honest, it kind of started to. Player counts fell through the floor, and Battlefield 6 looked to be on the same trajectory as its predecessors. But I'm not going to say that Battlefield 6 is completely back fully just yet, but player counts have stabilized, and on top of that, with Season 3 and the promises of what Season 4 brings and beyond, I'm started to feel excited about Battlefield 6 again. So today, let's talk about where Battlefield 6 is at today with Season 3 and Season 4 and beyond, and if I think Battlefield 6 might actually be making a comeback. Before we begin, if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to see more content like this. Now, let's jump in. So to start at the beginning and starting with Season 3 as a whole right now, I gotta be honest, I think Season 3 has been a very large success for Battlefield 6 and DICE as a whole. Starting with the new maps, they are fucking awesome. I understand that they're both remakes, but they're genuinely great and amplify different aspects of what makes Battlefield great. The Gold Mud Railway remake is all about massive scale, bringing back one of the best maps from Battlefield 4. It amplifies the ginormous battles that Battlefield is known for, and it's honestly a faithful remake of the map while trimming some of the outer edges of fat that weren't really that useful in Battlefield 4 to begin with. This is also now the biggest map in Battlefield 6, and I'm glad we finally have a true massive map in the game. When you think about it in terms of what Battlefield 6 had to offer in terms of maps, a lot of them were pretty small to medium-sized at best. At launch, the biggest map was Liberation Peak, and while that was a relatively large map, it was still, I would consider, medium size in the grand scheme of the entire franchise. Moving on to some of the DLC maps or some of the new season maps, we got maps like Eastwood and as well as Contaminated, and again, those are larger than some of the maps that we had seen in the base game, but yet again, they were still smaller than some of those massive maps that we saw in Battlefield 4, in Battlefield 5, and even Battlefield 1 to some extent. I'm not going to lump in Battlefield 2042 here because that was 128 players, 64 v 64, but even then, I just kind of missed some of that grandiose and that spectacle that Battlefield 6 maps were known for. I wanted to kind of run hundreds of meters. I know it sounds boring in the long run, but that's what makes Battlefield so great in general. Those small pockets of attrition and fighting in between these large battles, and where you see tanks rolling through, jets flying above you, that's what makes Battlefield so great. And so I'm glad that Railway to Gold Mud brought some of that back from Battlefield 4, one of the games in the franchise that I would consider to have some of the best maps of all time for the franchise. Cairo Bazaar is the remake of Grand Bazaar and is by far my favorite map in the game. It's a testament to how good the original Grand Bazaar was in Battlefield 3, and they brought it back in full force. One thing that I will say I'm incredibly impressed with is just the overall look of the map. Like the rain, the reflections, and the lighting in general is genuinely, in my opinion, the best looking map in the game. But beyond that, Cairo Bazaar has that chaotic aspect that Battlefield is known for and just does it so well. The Sea Point is so chaotic and just so fun. You have no idea what's going on at any point, but you're just having fun regardless. When there's smoke grenades going, RPGs flying by you, it is just such a fun experience. And couple that with the amazing sound design of Battlefield 6, it genuinely is those iconic Battlefield moments that people crave. And I think we finally have some of that here in Battlefield 6 with Cairo Bazaar. Couple that with some of the new weapons they added, some of the new quality of life changes they made with Season 3. I think without a doubt that Season 3 was the best overall season so far for Battlefield 6, and I genuinely think this was a step in the right direction in almost every single front. I don't have much to complain about with this season. We got 2 great maps, we got some solid changes, and moving into Season 4 and beyond, I think DICE is really doing their big one here. I genuinely think they have some crazy and cool stuff cooked up for us for Season 4 and beyond. Once again, for Season 4, the maps look phenomenal, and this time they're changing up the whole gameplay formula in general and giving us naval combat, something that players have been asking for a ton. It is great to see naval combat return in Battlefield 6, bringing back some of those iconic moments that we got in maps like Paracel Storm in Battlefield 4, but now in full force with the brand new graphics, everything that's going on with Battlefield 6, and I genuinely cannot wait for these maps. Suru Reef, which is the map that's in southern Japan, now will be the largest map in Battlefield 6, surpassing Season 3's Railway to Golmud. It's also built from scratch with a lot of the things that make naval combat great, like massive oceans, big choke points, and beachfront bases that allow for some of those iconic Battlefield 6 moments to take place. Obviously, we're not going to know if it's good just quite yet, but from what DICE has shown off about this specific map, I gotta say I am pretty excited. We're also getting a remake of Wake Island, the iconic map, with of course a Battlefield 6 redesign. This again is built specifically to complement those new naval systems as well and bring together everything that DICE has been talking about with what they want added with these naval combat systems. Again, we've seen this map in damn near every single Battlefield now, but I gotta say it's still an iconic map and a map that people really love, and so I'm excited to see it once again here in Battlefield 6. Not only are we getting boats and ships to kind of complement the naval warfare in Battlefield 6, we're also getting a full carrier system where you can launch jets from, act as spawn points, all that stuff that makes the carriers in a game like Battlefield 3 so iconic. I remember in Battlefield 3 taking off in the jet from the actual like ship itself. That was so fun. Just like having to spawn in on the carrier and then riding your boat to the points. Again, it's just such a great feeling. It brings you into the immersion. It brings you into everything that Battlefield is known for. And so I'm glad to see that carrier system kind of making a return here with Battlefield 6. There's also going to be a dynamic wave system where waves are used as cover, and you can kind of use the waves to your advantage depending on how you approach an enemy and what the waves are looking like in the map itself. That is something that's super unique. It hasn't been done before in Battlefield, and I'm curious to see how it kind of plays into the rest of the naval combat systems, and if it's actually going to be something that's worth messing around with, or is it just more of a hassle or just a gimmick as opposed to something that actually shakes up gameplay meaningfully. And I mean, overall Season 4 looks great. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with these 2 maps. I'm excited for the naval combat. It's something that we've been sorely missing in Battlefield 6, and I'm glad that it's kind of making a return here. Some of my favorite maps from a game like Battlefield 4 were the kind of ocean maps. Maps like Paracel Storm were some of my favorite maps from Battlefield 4, and I'm glad to see those ocean maps making a return here with the little pockets, those little islands where there's points where you can fight at, and then using your boat to kind of jet around, maybe kill some people from off the coast, things like that. It's peak Battlefield for me, and I'm so excited to see that return for Season 4. On top of all this, in the second half of 2026, we're also getting quite a few quality of life improvements and changes, which some may argue should have been here from the beginning. I personally think so, but again, I guess it's better late than never. In the grand scheme of things, a new Battlefield comes out maybe once every 4 to 5 years, so we're still in the first half of Battlefield 6's lifespan, so you're going to have these quality of life features for over half the game's life. I know these should have been here at launch, but I'm still glad to see them being implemented sooner rather than later. Changes like adding a proximity chat, so then you kind of have those moments where you're fighting someone and you can hear them on the other side. Games like Arc Raiders have implemented implemented this, and it's been super fun to kind of talk to other people, other enemies as well, and kind of laugh with them and whatever it may be. I just think it's a good feature to have. Is it something that I think was necessary? Absolutely not, but I'm glad to see that it's coming here. We're also finally getting server browsers and custom lobbies. This has been the second Battlefield in a row now where we haven't had a server browser, and to be honest, it has been one of the main drawbacks of Battlefield 6. I hate having to kind of use the like quick play stuff to figure out who I want to join or what I want to play, like if I want to play Conquest on these maps or Conquest and Domination on these maps, whatever it may be, but then you don't get to pick what like lobby you want to join into, and then the lobbies themselves aren't persistent, meaning that the second you're done with that map, you're on to the next round, you're on to the next lobby, and it's a whole host of new players. I think that's kind of annoying. It's not that fun, in my opinion. You lose that camaraderie that a lot of older Battlefields had, where you'd play with the same people over and over and over again, and you'd kind of build a rapport with them, and it would be fun to kind of, you know, see the same people and talk to the same people. That hasn't been the case for the past couple of Battlefields, but the server browser is making a return. Now I can pick exactly what map I want to play, when I want to play it, and what modes I want to play. I can see how many players are in there. Just all of that is just such nice quality of life changes that absolutely should have been there in the beginning, but I'm glad they're here now because they are sorely needed. Also, kind of a fun one, we're getting the return of platoons and clans. This was something that I kind of used back in the Battlefield 1 days when all of my buddies were playing Battlefield 1. We would have a platoon. It was stupid. It didn't really do anything, or didn't do much, at least in my opinion. But again, it was fun to have that sense of community and that sense of camaraderie, because at the end of the day, that's not really present in, you know, modern multiplayer titles. So I'm glad to see DICE making an effort to bring back some of those community focused features from older Battlefields that, you know, may not have been game sellers, like no one's buying the game because of the platoon system, but it is still something that adds up. These little wins here and there add up to making a good overall experience for Battlefield 6. Beyond just the gameplay itself, the community elements, in my opinion, are sometimes just as important. So I'm glad to see platoons making a return here. Something that I personally don't really care for, but I think other people will. We're also getting ranked multiplayer. Details are light on this one. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work and how everything's going to shake out, but for the people that are interested and want to play ranked, I guess it's good for them. Personally, I've always sought Battlefield as a kind of more casual experience. I like to jump in, you know, kill some dudes, blow some shit up, and then leave, and I don't really like care personally about my KD or what's going on. I just really care about having fun, especially in Battlefields, and so I'm going to keep playing casually. But again, for the people that do care for this game a lot and take this game very seriously, it's good to see that ranked is coming here. We're also getting some map reworks of some maps that sorely need it, like New Sobek City and Blackwell Fields. These are some of the worst maps in the game, and I'm glad to see them listening and actually reworking the maps. Again, time will tell if the rework is actually going to be proving useful and people will actually like the maps once the reworks are made, but you know, we'll see. For now, those are some of my two least favorite maps in the game, and I try and avoid them whenever possible, and so I'm glad to see them getting reworked, because at the very least it'll give me something new to play, and then I can decide from then on if, you know, I consider them good now or not. But yeah, overall, moving into kind of my overall conclusion and thoughts of where Battlefield 6 is at today, I think Battlefield 6 is finally starting to trend in the right direction. Player counts have stabilized, albeit a lot lower from the initial launch period, but that's also kind of to be expected. Did I expect this big of a drop? Absolutely not. I genuinely thought that Battlefield 6 would stay in the hundreds of thousands of players, at least here on Steam, but it has dropped well below that. We're now around anywhere from 30,000 to 60,000 players at any given time. Again, that's still a shit ton of players playing your game, much more than Battlefield 2042. By this point in Battlefield 2042's life cycle, I think we were getting around 5,000 players at any given point. That is absolutely horrendous, especially for a AAA game made by DICE. But Battlefield 6's player count relatively is still quite healthy, and I'm glad to see that, because at the end of the day, it is still a really good game. I think Season 1 and Season 2 specifically fumbled a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and say that they were absolute complete disasters. I think Season 1 was very bad. I think they made a lot of changes that people didn't like. The maps that they did release weren't very good. Eastwood was fine. Blackwell Fields absolutely sucked balls. But I think Battlefield's been on a little bit of a map streak now with Season 2 and Season 3. I think Tangential Base as well as Contaminated were fantastic additions to the Battlefield repertoire. And now with Season 3, with Railway to Golmud as well as Cairo Bazaar, we've gotten kind of a 4-map streak here that their maps are genuinely really good and really fun to play. I would say they're my 4 favorite maps in the entire game. That's saying something because that includes all of the base maps that were released with the game. I genuinely think these are the 4 best. Now moving into Season 4, I have a good feeling about these maps as well. They look really well done. I like the naval combat changes that they're planning on making, and it's just another aspect of gameplay that Battlefield 6 did not have at launch that it will now be here. I love the naval elements of Battlefield 4. I know I sound like a broken record here. Those were some of my favorite maps. I love the water features of Battlefield 4, and I'm glad to see them return in Battlefield 6. And if they can keep going and go on a 6-map streak, then I genuinely think that Battlefield 6 will start, kind of bringing players back in. And to give my final conclusion, do I think these changes are going to bring players back? Not right away, but I think as time goes on and these good changes in maps start to stack up, and as long as DICE doesn't decide to shoot themselves in the foot at any point, which to be honest isn't a given, I think players will though slowly but surely start to come back. And by the end of the year and early into next year, I think Battlefield 6 is going to be in a really good spot, and there's a chance, a slight one, but a chance nonetheless, that Battlefield 6 is actually going to be remembered fondly at the end of its lifespan. But either way, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below your thoughts on Battlefield 6. Are you enjoying Battlefield 6 as a whole now? What are your thoughts on Season 3? Are you enjoying Cairo Bazaar? Are you enjoying Railway to Golmud? What about the past season's maps like Contaminated and Tangential Base? I want to hear everything y'all have to say down in the comments below. Again, if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to see more content like this. It's been CGG. I'm out.